Hello friends, it's Chromatic Sauce and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be watching me tattoo the flower bouquet from my No Rain, No Flowers video that you probably saw recently. My other tattoo talk through. That one was just the words. I like to split it up. This one I'm going to do a little bit longer than I normally do. The tattoo itself is 18 minutes long, so we're going to hop in here in a second. Let me know, do you like shorter videos, longer videos? This one's a little bit longer because then the reaction's gonna make this video probably like a little bit longer, but not if I go fast like I'm about to do. I don't know. Or would you like it to be split up and then more talking on the outsides? How do you feel? Well, I'm gonna get started watching the video, and I'm gonna say before we really like get into it too much, no talking smack about my clients. I'm open for constructive criticism. Any other criticism is bullying, and I won't tolerate it. Constructive criticism for like me in whatever. I'm open to criticism. Just don't be rude, especially to my clients, no matter who the client is. Either way, thanks for watching this video. No, wait, we're at the beginning of the video. Shoot. I'm being so goofy. So if you saw in the previous video, I did mention that this whole tattoo is just done with a bug pin 3-round liner. Same thing with the words. It's all part of like one tattoo, but I figured I'd split up the words to be like a separate tattoo, because why not? Sometimes people just get words like that. And that way this video wouldn't be crazy long, but I'm down for it to be a little long. So to start out for this one, I'm just lining the whole thing in black. It's not a really large piece. It's actually pretty big. It's pretty tall on her arm. Some people do really fine line and really, really small flower bouquet. This one's not really as small as it could be. Some people go way smaller with it. So this is a pretty good size, in my opinion. But even still, it's still a bug pin 3-round liner, very fine line. I still want to take it slow and steady whenever I do the lines. So you can see me here, I'm just sketching it in, especially these really long stem lines. I just sketch it in. I don't make really long passes most of the time. If I do, it's a slow pass. It's not really like, you know, it's slow and the machine's going slow, so it's not really like jamming a ton of ink in the skin. But I really take my time with it. So this tattoo, where it's not really a huge tattoo, it did still take me a little bit of time. You can see closer to how long it took in the full-length video, but I think I guesstimated that it would take me like maybe an hour to do the whole tattoo, like including the words. And I believe it took me closer to like an hour and a half. So not too far off, but these fine lines, if you're putting care into the way you put them in the skin, at least the way I tattoo, some people can tattoo really fast, and I don't know how much they care. They could care a lot. I don't know what's in their head. But the way I can accomplish the look I'm going for, I really take my time. I put a lot of care into it. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I just take my time. You know, just like if it was like a stick and poke, needle by needle, going with the machine really slow, you can get these nice lines without putting a ton of ink in the skin, but you can like build it up to be exactly what you're looking for. So I always try to keep it dainty for my dainty girls and boys, if there's dainty boys, and or any kind of people really. All people, if you want it dainty, I want to get you dainty, because not everyone will do dainty tattoos for you. They'll say it doesn't heal well, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just because you do a tattoo and it doesn't heal well doesn't mean every tattoo of this style doesn't heal well. And there's definitely a learning curve with smaller needles, and I definitely feel like I've grown a lot over the past few years, like ever since I started using finer needles, and I'm really happy with what I'm able to accomplish. You really got to take your time, in my experience. Otherwise, like, you can pull really nice lines if you're going like, if you're like just jamming it in there, but I don't know if it's just me, like maybe I just need a couple more years, like get that pinky strength up so I can control the needle depth better, like with faster speed. That type of stuff does come with time, but I feel like for these really fine tattoos, like fine, small, dainty tattoos with like details with the Bug Pen 3 round liner, I always go slow with it. I always take my time. I'll even play around with washes. I'll play around with doing shading at the edges so I can, like, even if that line blurs a little bit, then the shaded edge helps keep it more distinct, so it doesn't need to be a super crisp edge. I don't know. I'm just talking like generically about the way I do fine line tattoos. It's not even like relevant. This is just lining flowers. But since it is so small, kind of back to what I was saying, since it is so small, I feel like it's a good size. Like sometimes the details for these flowers can be a little bit tight, but this is still pretty open. It's not too dense. I mean, I designed it on purpose to be not too small, in my opinion. And especially the size she was willing to go, it's a pretty good size, and I feel like being able to tilt it and tuck the words up in, like in that little nook to the side of the bouquet, it really helps it. Like, it doesn't have to be a giant tattoo. Like, it kind of tightens everything up, and it makes it more like one cohesive piece, so the tattoo can be that little bit bigger to be a more successful tattoo. Bigger tattoos are always a little bit better, you know. It's the general, like, tattoos are always going to blur a little bit, like that's always kind of what you think. But so this is like big enough that over time it'll settle in and it should still look very nice. But so I just take my time. I'm not really like these ones. I could do like a carrot motion, and maybe at some points I do. It really all depends on where I think I can get a good angle. That's why you'll see me when I do tattoos, I'll switch from this angle and then I'll sort of go at the tattoo upside down. And I only sometimes think of the camera. Like, it's not always like, oh, let me get out of the way so the camera can see. A lot of times when I'm changing my angle like that, it's so I can get a better angle, because if a line's going like diagonal this way, I don't necessarily want to pull that line this way. I'll just change my whole body so I can pull it the way I want. So I just take my time. I don't do too big of motions, especially for the spine line. I don't want to put the needle in the skin at a too sharp of an angle or accidentally go a little bit too deep, so I basically just stipple in the lines. This isn't as slow as I put the machine down for like shading. It's probably like a 6.5 speed, so it's still enough that you kind of can like do a line with it, but you still got to take your time. It's like a very slow line, not like you would crank your machine up and like pull an 11 round liner, you know. Like, I'm always taking my time. I'm always being like super vigilant, especially when I'm using black ink. I'm not trying to put too much ink in the skin. That's always what I'm thinking. This is like, as I do all the fine line tattoos, I'm like, keep it light, because I'd rather it lighten up and then they come back and we have to touch up parts of it than it come back and it's all blown out and dark. And, you know, we're all humans. Some tattoos, most tattoos, there's going to be slight inconsistencies in application, because tattoo artists are not robots. But I definitely try my best to stay as consistent as possible, be like a robot, you know what I mean? Like, that's what the client wants. So I do my best to keep the needle even in the skin and line everything the same way, kind of thing. That way when it heals and settles and then eventually blurs and lightens up a little bit, it'll do that at the same rate. Because sometimes it's really easy to pull a line and it looks pretty good fresh, and then this is just generically people tattooing, and then it heals, and like the one part that was too deep has a little blowout, or it's like blurred and a little bit thicker. There's a part of a line that wasn't in deep enough, so it's like a lot thinner, or it's like disappeared entirely. And it's one thing when that happens with like really thick lines, because you can touch that up and you can make it thicker to the like blowout if you want, or you can like do stuff to like mask the look of the blowout. But for fine line tattoos, you don't have that wiggle room, and it's way easier to blow it out. So I don't know, I keep repeating myself. I take my time with it. It's good though, because now we're to the shading. So like I said, this client doesn't want too heavy, too dark tattoos. You know, she likes the fine line look, so I never want to go too dark with the black. So I think for the tips of those leaves, I don't think I did black at all. I think I did a little bit of black in the little leaves, which are going to be at the very end. So I think for the tips of these leaves, what I started with before I started talking about shading the leaves, I just did a dark gray wash just at the tips, so that the tips would be a little bit darker. And then for all those leaves, I drew them so they would be a little bit behind those like small flowers. And basically I did a fill with the medium wash, and I made sure I built it up a little bit so that as it heals and that shade lightens up a little bit, which washes always lighten up more than you would think. Like this wash looks pretty dark now, like maybe close to a dark wash, but once it heals, and especially after a couple months, the wash will definitely lighten up quite a bit. So I want to make sure it's saturated enough that even when it heals, it's going to look like there's pigment in there, and that it gives a nice edge for those flowers to pop off from. This one's pretty small, so I didn't go too crazy with every tone. I knew I wasn't going to really build up any saturation anywhere specifically, because it was originally going to be just a line work tattoo, but I was like, let me add a little bit of shading. So this is my adding a little bit of shading, like not going too crazy, but something to give that little extra dimension, just a little touch. So I only poured an extra for a dark wash and then the medium wash. I didn't do light or extra light. When you're doing this small amount of shading, it kind of doesn't, it's not useful to use super light washes, because if a wash is too light, it's going to heal and look like nothing. So I'd rather use a medium wash. It has more likelihood of being visible, even if you don't like saturate it as much as you possibly can. So like a lot of the shading in the rose, and you'll see me doing it with the other with the other flowers too. The shadows I'm using, the main shadows, I'm just using with the medium tone because I don't want it to be too dark. I'm not going to put any more black in those flowers. That line work, fine line tattoos are already, like, I'm sure most people know about fine line tattoos. I mean, even all that I was explaining of like how you got to be really careful, don't put too much ink in the skin because tattoo ink will blur over time, yada yada yada. So when I'm doing shading for flowers, especially this small, I am not putting more black pigment around those lines. I'm going to add a shade, a tone with my gray wash. This is how I do it anyway. I'll add that tone and maybe build it up to like a little bit saturated, but I want to make sure that we still have brightness in the middle of those flowers, because once that ink blurs, I mean, this is just tattoos. Everything is just going to blur a little bit and it looks a little bit darker before it starts like lightening up over the years, you know? Like for bold line tattoos too. Like you see a traditional tattoo with like a really fat line and it's like, ooh, that's so satisfying. 5 years from now, those fat lines are going to be like double fat. You know what I mean? Like what words am I trying to say? So like, not to criticize thicker lines. I love thicker lines too. But like, we know that this happens with line work, whether it's a big bold tattoo with thick lines or a fine line tattoo with really thin small lines. The same principle is sort of occurring, but just on a smaller scale. So it's a little bit harder to pull off this, a bigger tattoo, obviously with more open areas between bolder lines. You can put black shading and the bold lines will stay bold lines. But the next step for this type of tattoo, if there's too much black pigment, there's not any room for there to be no more black pigment. I feel like I'm not explaining that very well at all. Basically, all the pigment for any tattoo you ever get is going to blur in the skin over time. The more black you put in there, even if it's just for a little shady effect, that's just more black that's going to blur into a potential black blob. So I keep it light with the black, and then I use lighter shading to help reinforce my edges. I'll even, if there's a part of the tattoo that I'm like, oh man, this line could be darker, I'll just kind of go in with my darker wash sometimes, because I'm like, it just needs a little bit more color, but I'm not trying to make this heal with like a lot more pigment. But a dark wash is already a diluted black, so it's not going to be putting solid black amounts of black pigment in there. It's going to put a little bit of less pigment. I'm just rambling on. It probably makes no sense, but let me know if whatever I was rambling about made you think anything different about tattoos or your tattoos or fine line tattoos. What is your opinion on fine line tattoos? I assume if you came to this video and watched the whole thing, you are probably a fan. Like, you're probably seeking out fine line tattoos, and I hope you learned something about what to expect when you get finer line tattoos. Make sure if you want a certain look, you're going with someone who does what you want. Not everyone even has fine line, which isn't bad. It's okay if you don't use fine line, you don't like it doesn't heal well. Every tattoo artist is different. Everyone uses different machines. Different machines work for different artists. A machine that, I don't know if I could say any machines suck. A machine that some tattoo artists would say suck, other tattoo artists, it's their favorite machine because they just tattoo differently. So everyone using bug pin 3-round liners, we're not all going to have the same experience. So it's fair. Just make sure if you're a client looking for an artist, if you want a fine line tattoo, look for people who are doing exactly what you're wanting. And try to look for healed work too if you can. I'm so bad at collecting healed work. If you're a client and you have a healed tattoo from me, send it in. Maybe I should add like a page on my website or something. The problem is there's so many things I have to do in life. But I'll get there. I figure I'm still 3.5 years in. I'll wait till I have examples from even longer ago. And I'd like some older examples from like some of the stuff that I'm more proud of too, because what is a 6-month heal? Like, most tattoos are going to look good in 6 months. But it's hard when you're only like 3.5 years in, because I only have 3.5 years worth of work behind me, and that's not a super long time to see stuff healed and come back. And I was definitely not even attempting stuff like this. Not quite like this back whenever I first started. But either way, I'm definitely happy to talk about any of this stuff. Let me know, what do you think of fine line tattoos? Do you have any fine line tattoos? Fine line tattoos, especially more on the lines of realistic black and gray, like fine line. I guess they call things so many different things. There's no rules. But the fine line black and gray, like more like realistic, that's definitely my jam. But I also love doing like dainty small things like this. Anything really, I just want to make people happy and you know, I think these were her, what words am I trying to say? I think these were her like siblings' birth flowers, what an amazing opportunity to build connections with people, especially when I'm so awkward and I struggle with building connections. I love being able to be a part of people's lives in a small way. So if you want a tattoo, definitely head to my website, chromaticsauce.com, book an appointment. I'd love to see you, and maybe we can get on a YouTube video. But anyway, either way, let me know what you want to see next. Comment down below, like, share, subscribe, all that business. And I love you. See you in the next one. Bye. Oh my gosh, I got a headache.